And hello once more, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to episode 19 of the Druids Dozen. Yeah, my name's John, also known in certain circles as the Rock Druid, and basically I'm a DJ, mainly on the radio these days. Got a couple of shows, the BCFM Sunday Rock Show 93.2 FM in the Bristol UK area, and of course the Rock Druid Show on astroradio.earth. And basically this is a video that I just do to sort of like keep in touch with mates and kind of keep myself sane during COVID when I can't go to gigs, etc. Basically it's just me raiding my substantial record collection, dragging a dozen out at random, 6 on vinyl, 6 on CD, and waving them in front of the camera and chatting about them for a couple of minutes each. So, before I start, I want to say a big thanks to everyone that's been watching. I have a small but quite loyal viewer base on YouTube, and most of my views are coming off Facebook at the moment, but you know, like I said, I'm not doing this for kind of fame or fortune or anything like that. It's just primarily to keep in touch with a few friends and kind of share my love of music to the world, to anyone that cares to listen. But anyway, let's just press straight on, shall we? We're going to kick off vinyl as always, and we're going to start a bit of metal with this one. Judas Priest Turbo from 1986. And once more, I've forgotten my glasses. Yeah, it's become a routine on these. Look at me looking for my specs. There we go. There's the front. There is the back. And if I reach in here, this is the kind of insert lyric sheet kind of thing. You have the black and white reproduction of the cover art there, sans Judas Priest logo. And there we have a breakdown of lyrics, lead solo credits, which I'll come to in a minute, and you know, yeah, artwork, recording studios, etc. Now, this is probably the most controversial and divisive album Judas Priest have released, at least until the Ripper Owens period. Coming out in 1986, this is Judas Priest experimenting with synthesizers and digital technology, which at the time was not only cutting edge technology but also kind of very controversial. You know, there was all this kind of, you know, if you're a metal band and you even brought out a keyboard player, there'll be certain aspects in the metal community that would attack you for it. And then Judas Priest, they didn't actually break out keyboards, but they heavy use on guitar synths. Now, prior to this album, Judas Priest were kind of quite interested in sort of like doing something a bit different, and at the same time a rather notorious UK production team, Stock Aitken and Waterman, yes, those people that ran the shit factory, the ones that gave us really crap radio singles by Carly, the Reynolds Girls, Jason Donovan, Rick Astley, etc. Expressed an kind of to try and make themselves a bit more not hated by the more seriously minded music fans, wanted to work with a rock band. They contacted CBS Records. CBS put them in touch with Judas Priest. The story goes, there was kind of about 2 or 3 weeks with Judas Priest in the studio with Stock Aitken and Waterman, not really seeing eye to eye on anything musically and anything personally apparently, which led to Judas Priest walking out and threatening to quit CBS Records if they insisted they carried on. CBS relented, packed him off to Tom Allen, their normal producer, but Priest had kind of liked the idea of the whole digital process, and so consequently Messrs. Tipton and Downing broke out the guitar synths. Mr. Allen started using a digital recording process, then cutting edge rather than analog, and the Turbo album was conceived. I said it's a bit different from a lot of other Priest albums, either before or after. Probably most noticeably on the opening cut, Turbo Lover, which is very kind of synth driven. It's very I don't know, it sounds unlike virtually anything else Judas Priest have ever recorded on that particular track. Although, you know, and the theme carries on throughout the rest of the album. Although, looking beyond the kind of Len shocking synth guitar sounds, you know, there's some pretty strong material on here. The aforementioned Turbo Lover is a cracking song. Rob Halford's vocals are superb. Then you got Locked In, Parental Guidance, Private Property, Rock You Around the World, Out in the Cold, which was for a while Priest's live opening cut for their live sets. Superb track, Hot for Love, Reckless. Maybe that not quite as good, but yeah, overall it's a strong album. And yeah, I, like many other Priest fans, was a bit shocked when it came out. But overall, it's pretty, it holds up well, in my opinion. You feel free to disagree with me in the comments if you do, but, you know, I've got a big soft spot for this album, and I do play it for pleasure a lot. So, number one, for 1986, Turbo by Judas Priest. Okay, number two, coming up. Gonna go to CD for this one. There we go. This is Stolen Time by Oceanfield. There's the front. There's the back. I'll show you. There's the disc. There's what's behind the disc. And this is the booklet. There's the outer sleeve of the booklet. You can see the album cover a bit more clearly there. There's the back, and as normal, it's just some quite pleasant artwork. Come on, open. And some lyrics. And also in here, now this isn't exactly a press release, but I have this little letter that came with it when it arrived back in 2008, posted on the 12th of August 2008. I'm going to cover my address up there, but don't want to show it on the internet. But here's a kind of little letter, and it says, "Hi John, hope's all well with you again. Once again, thanks for all your support. Please enclose our new CD. We hope you enjoy it. I've included a radio play only CD for you to load in the computer, where the tracks are individual tracks, i.e. they don't blend into each other, and it'll be easier to play on the radio. Look forward to hearing you soon. Please keep in touch. Yours, best regards, Chris Holmes and Oceanfield." Chris Holmes being the Oceanfield guitarist. Now, this lot are a prog rock band. Very prog. They're out of Kendal in the beautiful part of England called the Lake District. Those of you who don't know, it's up here in the northwest area of some rather, yeah, it's an area of lakes and some rather large mountains. Well, large mountains in the UK concerned. We're not a particularly big island, so anything over about 3,000 feet above sea level is an impressive mountain. And I know the Scots are going to go on about the Munros, which are over 4,000 feet, but hey, you know, we don't need to boast about how big our mountains are in England, do we? No, seriously. you know, no compensation here. But then, no, seriously, very prog rock. Now, this comes from a time around in the late 2000s through the early 2010s where, I'll be honest with you, I was a little bit disappointed with the quality of prog rock coming out of the UK, with one or two exceptions. This being one of the exceptions. But a lot of the prog rock was kind of turning into kind of, I don't know, kind of, it was very folky. It was very kind of away with the fairies. It had no real guts or glory to it. It was just kind of trippy and hippie and forgettable. I can't even remember some of the bands off that scene that I used to kind of complain about. It was that forgettable. But there were some that were still upholding the kind of true, what I call the true spirit of prog, where it kind of it goes from the heavy bits to the quiet bits, and it's all intricate and this kind of thing. Oceanfield were one of them. Like I said, there are a three-piece band in the studio. Live, there was sort of like extra guys that used to kind of join them. Like I said, you've got Jane Barrett on vocals. Cracking voice. Sounds like a combination between Sandy Denny and Janis Joplin. She can be hippie and trippy, but she's got the guts there as well. Steve Hartley on drums, and a guy called Chris Holmes. No relation to the Wasp bloke, but Chris Holmes, who does basically everything else in the studio, and live was the guitarist. Very, very talented stuff. Now this is kind of, like I said, female fronted, hints of Pendragon in here, I think. Imagine good way of describing it. Imagine a female fronted Pendragon, and you've got roughly where these guys are coming from. Yeah, just very, very good band. This album came out in 2007, 2008, around about then. And I'm not sure what happened to them. They seem to kind of drop off the radar pretty damn quick after this album came out. Then there was a flurry of activity around about 2016, where a second album cover was suddenly appeared on their Facebook page. But since then, there's been nothing. So, are Oceanfield still together? Whatever happened to the second album? I don't know. These are all mysteries of rock and roll in the internet. So, but anyway, I don't know whether this is still going to be available. If it is, I recommend that you try and track it down, because I like it. It's pretty damn good. So, yeah, number 2. Stolen Time by Oceanfield, 2008. Pretty damn good album. Put that one down there. Get a bit of this. First time, if I remember rightly, that Rush have cropped up on this vlog. This is Roll the Bones from 1991. Now, this album, in my opinion, it's one of my favourite Rush albums. It marks a bit of a transition from Rush. Throughout the 80s, you know, albums like Signals, Grace Under Pressure, Hold Your Fire, albums I like, by the way. Rush were kind of pursuing a kind of almost like quite commercial prog rock sound and vibe. You know, you could be uncharitable and say it was pandering to the MTV audience and, you know, hit fishing, etc. Oh yeah, there's the front, of course. There's the back, and inner sleeve, an elephant's arse for some reason. Never could get my head around why there's a large elephant's arse in there. And then album credits and lyrics on that side. Now, I like Rush. Yeah, you know, I'm not a kind of Rush worshipper, and I will call I will call them out where I am. I mean, like, for example, I'm not a big fan of Neil Peart as a drummer. I think he's too busy, too faffy, bit too kind of show-offy. But having said that, the guy's a fantastic lyricist. I'm not going to take his lyric writing away from him, just that he's not my favourite drummer. Feel free to disagree, feel free to mention in the comments if you disagree and why I should. But anyway, but overall, you know, Rush are a band I prefer I like more than I dislike. That's a good way of putting it. And so this album kind of marks a transition where they were coming out of their 80s kind of sort of like pop prog period, heading more back towards the stuff they were doing in the late 70s. You know, this album owes more to the likes of Farewell to Kings than it does to, say, Signals or Grace Under Pressure. Overall, it's pretty strong. Tracks like Dreamland, Bravado, Where's My Thing, Big Wheel, Heresy, Neurotica, You Bet Your Life. All pretty strong tracks, but there are two on here that, in my opinion, lift it up. There's the title track, Roll the Bones itself. Okay, there's a rap section on there that I think's a little bit cheesy. And, you know, I don't know who did the rap on that. No, it doesn't say, but, you know, I reckon in hindsight, I presume it's one of Rush, I reckon in hindsight they should have paid a proper rapper to do it rather than, you know, because there's nothing worse than people that aren't rappers trying to rap. But believe me, I tried it myself. It sounded pretty naff. And, but anyway, I can forgive it, that little section. It's only about 20 seconds, so I can get up with that one. And then there's Ghost of a Chance, which is a beautiful song with some really uplifting, powerful lyrics. That's kind of, you know, I won't be ashamed to say, and it's got me, just listening to that song was one of the tracks that's got me through some hard times in my own personal life. So, overall, far more yay than nay. I'll give it a solid 7.5 or 8 out of 10. Pretty good album. Yeah. Roll the Bones by Rush, 1991. Okay, next up, reaches for another CD. Now this is one of these cardboard sleeve promo editions. I don't know what the original one was like. This is Meshiaak. I think that's how you pronounce it. I may be wrong. Well, there's the front. There's the back with a bit that said promotional copy only, not for resale. You know, and I'm not one of these nasty people that take their promos and try and flog them and make money on the rarity value. I just treasure them because it's a part of my collection. And here we go. This is the press release Mascot Records label group. There's the press release. And there's album details on the back there. Now, Meshiaak, thrash metal of the old school. It's John Dette, drummer. Who's a bit of a journeyman. He's been in Testament, Anthrax, Iced Earth, Slayer. Then there's Danny Camarilli, Dan Wells and Nick Walker making up the rest of the band, who I'm not really sure their origins and details of. I just know they're three pretty fine musicians. This is a thrash metal album. This is thrash metal of the old school. Considering this came out in, when was it? 2016 this was released. Although, if you played it to me unseen and told me it was 1988 or something like that, it's acceptable to believe that because that's where it sounds like it came from. This is very much in the classic Testament, early Metallica, Megadeth, Onslaught type vein. It's heavy, it's fast as fuck, it's relentless. and pretty damn good. The album's called Alliance of Thieves. Highlights include At the Edge of the World, the title track. It burns at both ends, probably my favourite cut of the album. But they're all pretty good. At the Edge of the World, Last Breath Taken, Maniacal. Each track comes at you like a large metal sledgehammer and smashes your ears in. Yeah, good album. Maybe a bit obscure. I don't know what happened to them. I've not heard of this band since. I'm still getting stuff off Mascot Records, so you know, maybe they changed label, maybe they're just one of these one-off. You know, not a lot of bands fold after one album, but overall, you know, if you're into your thrash metal, worth checking out and hunting down. Good stuff indeed. He says putting that one away and reaching for a bit more vinyl and have a change of gear. There we go. Dave Brock and the Agents of Chaos. The album, The Agents of Chaos. There's the front. There's the back. There's nothing much on the inner sleeve. Now, I'm going to quick slurp of liquid here. Iced coffee, I like it. Anyway, Dave Brock, the founder and only surviving original member of Hawkwind, talented geezer. Maybe partly in his own right and also partly because he manages to kind of attract to play with him some really talented people, you know, Hugh Lloyd Langton, Nick Turner, Dick Mick, Simon House, there's been hundreds of people through Hawkwind over the years. Also a very prickly character, difficult to work with, and so hence Hawkwind have had such a high turnover of members. I know quite a few ex-members of Hawkwind, and I'm not going to mention them on camera, but I've heard some very, very interesting stories about Mr. Brock. But anyway, all that aside, I'm not going to knock that Dave Brock is a bit of a talented geezer when it comes to songwriting and performing, etc. This is a solo album, effectively. It's just Mr. Brock with a guy called Dr. Technical, whose real name, Chris somebody or other, I think it is, but whose real name I forgets me, who's this kind of oppo in the band, and they're kind of exploring kind of synth rock, rocktronica kind of vibes on this album. This album was a bit controversial when it came out at the time because at least two of the tracks, was it Heads and Wastelands of Sleep, were recorded by Hawkwind for the Xenon Codex album, but then Brock recorded his own versions and gazumped the Hawkwind version by literally about 3 or 4 weeks by releasing this album before Hawkwind's Xenon Codex came out, which will date this to 86, around about then. Doesn't say, but I think this is about 1986, I think it is. Maybe as late as 88, but mid to late 80s anyway. Yeah, but overall, it's kind of quite interesting. I can forgive the gazumping of Hawkwind's versions of Heads and Wastelands of Sleep because they come over very differently on this album than they do on the Hawks version. The Hawkwind's version are quite rocky, obviously, whereas on here they're kind of yeah, I said they're very synth driven. It's very kind of rocktronic. It's very electronic. It's almost gothic in places. You know, it's a pretty good soundscape overall, this album. Favourite highlights include High Tech Cities, A Day in the Office, the aforementioned version of Heads, Into the Realms, Mountains in the Sky. It's kind of like synthy, it's quite trippy, it's kind of quite good overall. So yeah, out on Flick Knife Records, I presume because Brock likes to kind of reissue his stuff very regularly, you should be able to get hold of a copy, if at least on CD or digital, if not on vinyl. But overall, an interesting one. I won't say it's brilliant. I won't say it's Brock's best solo album, but it's still kind of fairly good. So yeah, Dave Brock and the Agents of Chaos, 1987, 88, round about then. Okay, next up. Yes. Here we go. Crush Street Kids, Transatlantic Suicide. Mentioned the Crush Street Kids in one of the early editions of this podcast. I have a complete set of their albums, and I said I'll probably come back to them, and I have. So there's the front. There is the back. Again, broken jewel case, so be careful of this. Yeah, this, unfortunately, the jewel case on this didn't survive the postage from the US. There's the behind the discs kind of picture of the boys heading off to their private plane, which I've been told was just a rental that they rented for an hour for a photo shoot. And here's the booklet here. You got a really interesting story written by Ryan from the band that kind of ties up the kind of kid concept. The first three albums by the Crush Street Kids make a kind of concept work about a time traveller from the future that comes back to our time, or to the 70s, to become a pop star, to fulfill a dream, but kind of things go wrong. There's the there we go, and yeah, when was this album? 2009? Yeah, 2008, wow. Didn't know it was around that old. And also, something else that makes me really chuffed on here is, if I open this up, Crush Street Kids would like to thank John Wisby, BCFM Radio, UK, England. And on here, there's also a DVD about the history of the Crush Street Kids and their story. I've got personal thanks on the DVD as well, which makes me a bit chuffed, because they're a great band. I really like this lot, and yeah, when you get a credit like that, it gives me a big chuff on. Anyway, Crush Street Kids, they're kind of 70s glam revival type band overall. But working kind of these big concept works. Like I said, their first three albums of this lot provide a kind of concept work about a kid just called The Kid, comes back from the future to become a pop star, meets a sticky end. It's this is the final part of the trilogy, and it's probably the darkest. The first album's kind of quite raw and punky, because, you know, I've met AD and a couple of guys in person when they've been over Britain on other sort of session work, and we've gone out for a beer, and they said that when they did the first album, the concept idea of the kid was kind of there but not complete. But as the band progressed through the Chemical Dogs album, and then onto this one, Transatlantic Suicide. Whoops. Like I said, broken jewel case. We've got to get that fixed at some point. On Transatlantic Suicide, bloody hell. It kind of solidified, and the Transatlantic Suicide album was kind of written as a kind of way of tying up the concept and sort of ending the story. This is a great album. Tracks on here, oh god. Engineers, Do You Still Believe in Rock and Roll, Cigarettes and Starfuckers, I Disappear, Destroyer, The Zero. That's the first half of the album. It's all kind of heavy, it's in your face, it's kind of very rock and roll, it's very sleaze, it's reminiscent of bands like Mott the Hoople. It gets darker on the second side, almost heading into kind of some of Bowie, almost like Bowie-esque territory. My favourite Crash Street Kids track ever, Berlin's on here. One night in Berlin, that's all we've got left. Cracking track. Satin Child, The Kid Is Dead. The kind of the Dressed in White, it's a 4-part epic. We Kill Tomorrow's not a duff track. Performances are brilliant. These are musicians at the top of their game, playing music they really believe in, and producing a masterpiece. It's obscure. It's only out on their own label, Hot City Recordings. Recorded at their own studio, Shabby Road, and Jester. Brilliant stuff. So the band's out of Arizona. You might still be able to get hold of a copy of this floating around. I know it's still available digitally. I'm not sure about physically, but please do try and check it out. Track it down, get a copy. Brilliant. Crash Street Kids, Transatlantic Suicide. Okay, we're going to stay in a similar kind of vein for the next one, as we go for this. Yeah, Electric Warrior by T-Rex. Originally 1971 originally. Yeah, what's there to say about T-Rex? Well, Mark Bolan, from the age of 6, if the reports are to be believed, set out to become a pop star from his earliest age. Yeah, there's the back of the thing there. There's the back of the thing there. There's the disc. Because bearing in mind, although they had kind of people like Herbie Flowers with them as regular musicians, T-Rex were effectively a two-piece with old Mark Boland and Peregrine Took there. Mr. Boland dancing around. Oh, Mickey Finn, not Peregrine Took, Mickey Finn. That's right. Yeah, and in here you've got a kind of history of like recording of the album, some artworks, etc., and sort of fairly comprehensive sleeve notes. This is a kind of 2012 collector's re-release, re-edition kind of thing. Now, T-Rex, so Mark Bolan's wannabe pop star, went through several name changes as he tried to find the right name for himself. Mark Feld, his original name was, and then eventually became Mark Bolan. Was in a band called John's Children, left to form Tyrannosaurus Rex, who were a kind of folky, psychedelic folk duo, and then with the help of Tony Visconti, their regular producer, it kind of transmuted into becoming the T-Rex that we know and love and became famous for. Interesting band, still kept that kind of psychedelic hippie folk kind of vibe, but managed to blend in elements of what was then the contemporary kind of glam rock. You know, Boland used to hang out in a place called the Mountain Grill Cafe in North London, in Notting Hill Gate, and you know, there he would rub shoulders with people like David Bowie, members of Uriah Heep, Hawkwind, who were regular users of the cafe, and he used to hang out with them in there as well. And you know, and that and sort of listening to what was contemporary at the time rubbed off a bit, and he managed to kind of, by the time this album came out, Tyrannosaurus Rex had been shortened to T-Rex, and he had kind of began to kind of get the sound that was the make him famous. This is a great album. So this is an extended edition. You've got the main album itself kicks off with Mambo's Son, and then straight into my all-time favourite T-Rex number, the moving cosmic dancer. You know, he sort of describes himself dancing out of the womb, you're dancing to the tomb, almost as if he's talking about his own death. Somehow, tragically, only 6 years after this album came out, when he was killed in a car crash in South London. On it, you've got a single off the album, Jukester. This is the full 4-minute version. I think the actual single's edited down to about 3.5. Planet Queen, Motivator, and then the closing cut, Rip Off. Great riff-driven, what's that, heavy rock track. Brilliant stuff. And then on here you've got There Was a Time, Raw Ramp, Hot Love, Woodland Rock, and The King of the Mountain Cometh. Number of sort of singles and B-sides, etc., and sort of outtakes from the album. Overall, probably the high. Me and the missus disagree on this. She's a massive T-Rex fan. Me and the missus agree. I disagree. I reckon Electric Warrior and Tank, T-Rex's high points. She goes to slightly earlier period, the album before this one, etc., and the Tyrannosaurus Rex stuff. But we both agree that, you know, whatever the best stuff is or not, it's still fine music. Yeah, not much else to say. Highly recommended. If you haven't really got into T-Rex, this is a good place to start. You know, a lot of the compilation albums that you get are just do the singles, and you know, there's more to Boland and T-Rex than just kind of your Rider White Swans and Hot Loves and, you know, 20th Century Boys, etc. There's a lot of depth, a lot more depth to his songwriting and his performing than just his big hits. And an album like Electric Warrior will take you through the whole lot. So yeah, T-Rex, Electric Warrior. Great album. Okay, next up we have something else that's a little bit kind of controversial, or amongst fans of the band anyway. Here we go. Black Sabbath, or Black Sabbath featuring Tony Iommi, give it its full title, Seventh Star. Yeah, there's the front. There's the back. Some rather cool and groovy artwork on the inner sleeve, there, and there. I've still got it. Is it in here? No, not in there. Is it in there? No. I did have the ticket for seeing this lot of the Colston Hall in Bristol on the tour. But anyway, Black Sabbath, I shall do that. Black Sabbath, Seventh Star. Now, I'm not one of these kind of, if it ain't Aussie, it ain't Sabbath, because, you know, I'm a person that prefers the Dio era of Sabbath. Not dissing Aussie, but I just prefer Dio as a vocalist, and that was it's what I heard first time around. And I really like the Tony Martin stuff. Not a big fan of Born Again, but there again, few people are. That's the Ian Gillan album, by the way. But, you know, I call this one Sabbath in inverted commas because this wasn't intended to be a Sabbath album. it was record company pressure from Phonogram that put the Black Sabbath moniker on this. After all the kind of debacle with Ian Gillan and the disaster that really was the Born Again album, I know that people have re-evaluated it more recently and said, look, you know, it's not that bad. I listened to it the other day and thought, yeah, it's not that good either. Tony Iommi decided to put Sabbath on hiatus for a bit, not knowing where to go. The lineups were changing and falling apart. So basically, he decided to do a solo album. He recruited an entire new backing band, including Glenn Hughes on vocals, Eric Singer on drums, who went on to Blue Oyster Cult, if I remember rightly, Dave the Beast Spitz on bass. The only one that kind of stayed from the Sabbath, last of the Sabbath lineups, was Jeff Nichols, who's been ex-Quartz keyboard player, been with Sabbath since the late 70s. Recorded this album, and when it came to releasing it, no, Tony Iommi's solo album's not going to sell well. We're going to stick the name Black Sabbath on it and release it. Not a good idea, because this is not a Sabbath album. You know, Sabbath albums, you know, you expect that kind of heavy, doomy riffs, etc. You know, but this album's kind of more up-tempo. It's more mainstream metal. It kind of, it rocks. Tracks like In for the Kill, Danger Zone, my favourite cut on here, Heart Like a Wheel. You know, the Seventh Star itself, they rock. They don't kind of ponder and pound like a good Sabbath album should. They boogie and headbang. You know, more akin to something that Dokken would release, maybe. I don't know, but you know, Sabbath it is not. Good it is, but Sabbath it is not. Consequently, having the same Black Sabbath plastered across the cover, kind of, you know, probably did more harm than good in the long run, and in hindsight, it should have gone out as Tony Iommi solo. Performances here are great. Like I said, I saw him on the tour for this, although by that time Glenn Hughes had left and Ray Gillen had taken over the vocal helm. But, you know, live, they were brilliant, you know, but I said it wasn't Sabbath. It was, you know, I don't know. I really don't know, but it was just a kind of strange period. Not going to say you'll love this album. Came out in 1986, by the way. I'm not going to say you're going to love this album, but I am going to say it's an interesting one. One for the Sabbath completionists, and but for a casual Sabbath fan, listen to others before you listen to this one, put it that way. Yeah, Black Sabbath, featuring Tony Iommi, Seventh Star. Okay, next up, something completely different. We'll have this. Sequins and Sea Bombs by the Lounge Kittens. There's the front. There's the back with the track listing. Let you read that for a minute in case you haven't heard the Lounge Kittens, and let you kind of drink up all those song titles. You're going to go, I recognise them. Yes, you would have recognised them. And here's the inner sleeve. Here's the booklet. Comes out the inner sleeve. There's the Lounge Kittens themselves. Just credits and pictures, really. Massive photo spread. Yeah. Now, the Lounge Kittens are a do-wop band. All girl, sounding something like the Beverly Sisters or the Andrews Sisters. Sound like they should have come out in the 1940s. This is their second album and final album, because the band are currently on long-term hiatus because of, I think one of them got Egyptian flu. She's going to be was going to be a mummy. I think she might have come out the other end and got a rug rat infestation. But anyway, so I decided to take time out, which is a shame because these were a very interesting, quirky band. Basically, these guys would do famous sort of like rock and metal covers in a 40s do-wop style. We had a girl on piano, Sue Burkle singing close, all three, two other vocalists all singing close harmony, and you know, they were fun, they were quirky, but they were damn fine with it as well. On here you got the Alice Cooper cover, Poison, Bounce, System of a Down, is it? Something like that. God, where is it? Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap, the AC/DC number. Little kind of Prodigy medley. Smack My Fire Starter to Outer Space. Bodies, the Pistols number. Fantastic version of Africa, the Toto song. Well, there's more serious attempts at a number. Rammer's medley, which is kind of Rammstein. Yeah, Rammstein songs like Du Hast sung in kind of doo-wop style. It's just, Sabbath, True, the Metallica number, just fantastic. Now, I had the great privilege of not only interviewing these girls, but going out for a bite a week with them when they were came to Bristol on the tour for this album, Sequins and C-Bombs. And yeah, really nice, three really nice talented women, all sort of like professional vocalists, and met up doing choral work, but then they decided to do this as a bit of a side project, and it kind of took off. Very, very talented, very, very intelligent people as well, and they actually did quite well for themselves. They kind of toured with people like Status Quo and REO Speedwagon, got a massive cult following, and when you went to see them live, you'd have everything from kind of your teeny headbangers and punks to literally people that have survived World War II loving this because they reminded them of the Andrews Sisters or the Beverly Sisters. Yeah, overall, great album. So sadly the band are on hiatus. I hope they will come back at some point. And yeah, good stuff. So yeah, the Lounge Kittens, Sequins and C-Bombs. Brilliant. Go check out. Okay, next up. Bit of this one. I better speed it up a bit because we're getting a bit over time here. Yeah, UFO Making Contact from 1983. There's the front. There is the back. Pull it out and you've just got lyrics and minimal album credits on here. Now this is kind of I'll be honest with you, this isn't classic UFO. By the time this come out, Michael Schenker had gone, Pete Way had gone. On this album, Paul Chapman does the bass as well as the lead guitar. I can't remember who. I did see him on the tour for this album. I can't remember who played bass live. You know, you got Neil Carter and Andy Parker as the kind of keys and drums, etc. Actually, the bass is played by various members of the band filling in. But you know, it's not classic UFO. It's a bit patchy. It's got, believe me, it's got its moments. When it's time to rock, When the Wind Blows, No Getaway, Push It's Love, the great songs. Other places, you know, Blinded by a Lie, Falling, These in the Dust, Fall for Love, maybe not quite as hot. But overall, pretty good album. Not a place I'd recommend that you start for with UFO. You know, I'll go for some of the early albums, things like Misdemeanor, etc. maybe. But, you know, it's not bad. Yeah, nothing more much to say about this, but Making Contact UFO, 1983. Not a brilliant album, but not the worst either. A bit more prog rock. Here we go with a bit of this. 25 or XXV, I can never remember. I have been told by the band how what it is, but I'm not sure. I think it's 25. I'll go for 25. By Pallas from 2011. This is a cracking album. Yeah. Pallas, I have mentioned some of their earlier, at least one of their earlier albums on an earlier edition of this vlog. But you know, one of those kind of early 80s prog rock revivalist bands. You know, the movement that sort of ran parallel with the new wave of British heavy metal. Always have been a bit of a Pallas fan. That was one of my favourite. These and Marillion were probably my two favourite bands from that period. Pendragon and Twelfth Night were good as well, but Pallas and Marillion were the two that I really, really liked. And you know, they're not, you know, throughout their career they've not been particularly prolific, but on the other hand, they haven't really done anything that's been really duff. Even the albums like The Wedge, where they were kind of chasing something a bit more commercial, still damn fine album. Now this album is the one that marked the departure of Alan Reed as vocalist. Yeah, there's the front, the booklet. It's oh, there's what's in it. What's this? What's this? A little flyer kind of thing about the life of the album's launch show. Yeah. This is a concept work. Now, Pallas back in 1984, I think it was 84, released an album called The Sentinel, which basically is a kind of loose concept work about the destruction of Atlantis, you know, the old Atlantis myth. And oh, sorry, there's the front. I'm going to show you the back there as well. There is a bonus DVD in here with some video footage and a couple of live cuts in here as well. But anyway, well, it's the German edition for some reason. Yeah, but anyway, 25 years after Sentinel, they decided to record 25, and marks the start of Paul Mackay on vocals. Interesting story that Paul Mackay is previously best known for being Diz somebody or other for the band oh, something about Metal Fist or Iron Fist or but anyway, they're the joke metal band, the comedy metal band that's in the Grand Theft Auto video games. He plays Diz something or other, the vocalist, and yeah, cracking voice. And I interviewed him around about the time this came out, and I said, you know, are they going to do Fist Till Morning as part of their live set, which caused much hilarity. But anyway, joking aside, this is probably one of the strongest Pallas albums, full stop. It's a coherent concept. It's the return of Atlantis to kick humanity's butts for screwing up the planet. It's you know, the Unmaker, you know, from falling down the opening cut to the close of the Unmakers Awake, it just flows in this glorious prog rock soundscape that goes, oh, it's just work of genius. It always feels wrong to kind of pick out highlights, but I've got my favourite cuts on here. The Monster, 25 Part 1, 25 Good Honest Men. Oh, well, they said that they'll destroy Earth unless you can find 25 honest men on the planet. Blackwood, Violet Sky. Blackwood was a single, I believe. Sacrifice, Violent Sky. not a duff track on here. Overall, pretty damn fine. Pallas, of course, are still going, still banging out great records, although this, I think, is still their greatest ever highlight of their career. If you've not heard Pallas, this is the best place to start, in my opinion. Great stuff. Yeah, in 2011, 25 by Pallas. And it leads on to the last one. Bit of this, finish up with a bit of Motorhead. A very, very old record for my collection. Suffered some damage over the years, can't remember exactly how that happened. But yeah, I've had this since this album came out. And well, not long after it came out, this was released in 79. I probably picked this up at some point in 1980. But, you know, it has been kind of replaced, first of all, not replaced, but backed up both on tape and more lately on CD, but I'll drag the vinyl out just for the thing. No, there's nothing. Yeah, what is there to say about Bomber? Motorhead's third official album, or fourth album if you include the On Parole, which was recorded back in 76 but didn't get released until the early 80s. Just a cracking record. Again, this is Motorhead at their finest. This is probably my favourite Motorhead album overall. You know, not knocking Overkill or Ace of Spades or, you know, some of the later ones. Yeah, or maybe I can go and say that I really do like Another Perfect Day as well, but one of my two favourite Motorhead albums. There isn't a duff track on here, put it that way. You've got Dead Men, I'll just give you a track listing. Dead Men Tell No Tales, Lawman, Sharpshooter Revenge, Poison, where Lemmy says he wants to poison his wife. Naughty Lemmy. Stone Dead Forever, All the Aces, Step Down, Talking Head, and Bomber. This is classic Motorhead. This is Motorhead are one of the few bands that's managed to actually blend proper blues and metal into a kind of coherent whole. Few bands have tried it, but few have succeeded. Motorhead were one of the ones that have. So there's the flip side there. Can't show you that to you. Yeah. Got the iconic cover with photographs of the guys, kind of very tastefully airbrushed into a very, very good airbrushing rendition of a, looks like a kind of strange variation on the Heinkel 111, probably based on because the artist was using one of the ones from the Battle of Britain. It's the CASA variant, the Spanish-built version. But I'm going all plain spotty nerdy there and kind of distracting. Live for this tour, I didn't see him on this tour. I didn't see Motorhead for a couple of years after this album came out, but. They actually had the kind of reproduction of the Bomber as a kind of very skeletal lighting rig that kind of swooped over the stage and shone lights at the crowd and dropped smoke bombs, etc. Or squirted smoke from it anyway. But anyway, yes, a very, very great, intense album. This is, so it should be in the hands of every metalhead, every decent collector of kind of classic rock. This album just to die for. Not a weak track on it. It's got the classic lineup of Eddie Clark on guitar, Lemmy on bass and vocals, Phil Filthy Animal Taylor animalising on the kit. Seminal is the best way of putting it. Seminal. And who was the production? Jimmy Miller. I thought it was a Vic Mail, but it's not. It's a Jimmy Miller production, which is he does a fine job as well. So yeah, from 1979. Bomber by Motorhead. One killer album. So that's it for this week. Hope you've enjoyed. Remember, if you want to leave comments, down there on YouTube, over there if you're on Facebook, like and subscribe. It helps spread the word a bit. Like I said, I'm not in this for the money or the fame, just to kind of share my love of music. If you want to agree with me, disagree with me, call me obscene names, but I will call you them back. you know where the comments are, kind of thing. Great. Anyway, that's it. Until next week, people. Links to the radio shows are down there and over there as well. Until next week, peeps, I love every single last ones of you, and I'm out of here. Bye!